lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I listened to the audiobook for this, which is narrated by Wil Wheaton, and I highly recommend that. That was amazing. So this book takes place within a virtual reality world called the Oasis, and it is basically the entire internet turned into virtual reality. You can do, be, have anything you want in the Oasis. You can go to school in the Oasis, you can work in the Oasis, you can shop in the Oasis, you can definitely play in the Oasis. If you like video games, you can just be the main character and act it out. And you can feel and touch and have those sensations because of the way that the virtual reality is set up. Like, it's like you were actually there. So if you ever wanted to visit the planet of Endor, you could do that. There are also tons and tons of old school games in here. So if you want, you can stand at an old school arcade game and play Pac-Man all the way through. Like, anything that ever existed is in the Oasis. It's like the best library ever of just everything that ever existed. All the movies, all the TV shows, all the books, all the music. And everybody's in the Oasis. So you can just run into people. The Oasis is my favorite part of this book. Like, just imagining what I would do. He talks about like a giant library planet. Like, I would just go explore all the books and getting to like have spaceships. So like you could have Serenity or the Enterprise or the TARDIS or the Millennium Falcon or whatever spaceship you want. Or you could have a hover car or the DeLorean from Back to the Future. You could have some Ferrari, like whatever you're excited about, it's in here. It exists. You can physically have it, and it sounds awesome. So, like, some people go into the Oasis just to go and shop. And so if you're a fashion person, all the fashions are in here. You can make your avatar look however they want. You can make them look not human. You can make them look like a robot. They can be aliens. Or you can just make yourself a more idealized version of yourself. The main character, Wade Watts, is a teenager, so you can make yourself not have acne. You can make yourself skinnier or more muscular. Or you can make yourself fatter if you want and disfigured, like anything you want. You want elf ears, you can do it. My favorite part of this book is the Oasis, if you can't tell. Like, imagining and seeing what's actually there and what people have thought about. It's so exciting. So, moving on to the actual plot of this book, maybe is important. So, the creator of the Oasis, James Halliday, dies, and he does not have any heirs. So he decides to put up his entire inheritance, all $240 billion worth, plus an owner's stake in the Oasis up for grabs to the first person who can solve his game. So there are 3 keys that lead to 3 gates that will lead to like the big final finish, and whoever completes the game first wins everything. All of it. Which sounds amazing. Who doesn't want that kind of money or just control of the Oasis? You could either just chill and be let the Oasis happen, or you could make some changes. In fact, there is a corporation called IOI that is trying to win the game so that they can have control of the Oasis because they think Halliday hasn't taken advantage of it. Like, they could make some serious moolah off of access to the Oasis. Also, it should be pointed out that this is a dystopian future. It takes place in 2044. It's not too crazy, out of reach, unimaginable, a dystopian, but life pretty much sucks outside the Oasis. The economy is awful. We have overpopulation. People are crammed together really close. It sounds like the country doesn't offer much either. Like, our main character, Wade, is from the city. So I'm just like, what exists in the country? Like, it doesn't sound good. Gasoline prices have gone astronomical. People can't afford to drive anywhere anymore. Global warming is out of whack. Everything is completely messed up outside the Oasis. And so people are escaping into the Oasis to just not have to deal with real life. And while you're in the Oasis, I mean, you can hang out with your friends. You can do all the stuff you would do in the real world without having to look at how depressing the real world is. So when IOI wants to take over and monetize everything and nobody has any money, kind of is going to cut off access to a lot of people, or it's just not going to be as cool. So our main character, Wade Watts, is the first person who gets the first key and therefore is the first person to kind of hit the leaderboard. By the way, there is a leaderboard that's part of this book. It's keeping track of who's the first. It's like top 10 are like the most prestigious spots. And Wade Watts is the first one to figure anything out. So James Halliday dies when Wade Watts is like 13. And then it takes like 5 years before Wade can finally find the first key. And by that time, he's 18, a senior in high school, and starting to wonder what he's gonna do once he finishes. So the game itself is based off of things that James Halliday was obsessed with. And James Halliday grew up in the 80s, and so there are tons and tons of 80s references in here. Like, people are studying anything 80s in the hopes to be able to solve his puzzle. In fact, there's an entire online community called Gunters, or Egg Hunters, and their goal, like, they just have an entire culture set up around 80s things, and some people just like fangirl over and fanboy over 80s stuff, which I love. So there's tons of references to the music, the movies, the games, fashions, anything that happened in the 80s, and it's pretty awesome. There's also tons of just video game references in general, not necessarily 80s, but like as we're talking about the progression and stuff. And we do get to find out some of the history of how the Oasis was built. So there's a little bit of kind of how game developing happens in here. Just a little bit. Mostly it's 80s pop culture and video games, but everything is pretty well explained. Some of it is more like straight tell you what's happening info dumps. I mean, it's usually Wade in character explaining how he did stuff and be like, hey, look, I'm awesome. So if you don't watch a ton of 80s stuff, if you don't get the 80s references, if you don't know about these video games, it's fine. Some of the 80s stuff in the video games were really, really obscure, so I needed Wade to tell me what they were. But it was also cool for the ones that I did know, like mentioning Star Trek and mentioning family ties and stuff and getting excited over these things. I totally fangirled reading this book. Like, this is a book for people who like to fangirl about 80s stuff and just the Oasis in general. I want the Oasis. Please, future, can we have the Oasis without IOI taking control? We find out lots of things about Halliday's past, like they obsess over it. He's from this kind of small town, and just we find out that he made his best friend James Morrow. I think it's James. Definitely Morrow, though. Like, they first became friends playing Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s, and then they started developing games, and which became the Oasis together, which is pretty cool. So the Oasis is kind of cool because everybody gets to pick their avatar, but you also don't necessarily know who you're talking to, which is a point that is kind of brought up several times in this. Like, when you only meet somebody over the internet, it's kind of cool because you can make a purely intellectual connection with someone and be best buds because you like the same things and hang out together and not get obsessed with like how each other's looks. You can fall in love with somebody who you actually share common interests with rather than somebody because of how they look. But on the other hand, people can be deceiving because they can make themselves look however they want, so they could be startlingly beautiful and you wouldn't know that. Or they could be like super old and you think that they're only 20 and then you maybe don't want to meet them in real life. So it's kind of cool to see Wade as he makes friends in the Oasis, and then he tries to speculate what his friends are actually like in the real world. And I really liked getting to see his best friend H and the girl he's crushing on, Artemis, in the real world. I loved exploring the Oasis. That's the main thing I got out of this book. The actual competition and the games are fun also. Wade is smart and clever. He's also snarky and sarcastic. Or at least Wil Wheaton narrating is really snarky and sarcastic. There's like this definite thread of what would happen if IOI took over the Oasis. This book's awesome and amazing, and you guys should totally check it out. It's also going to be a movie, which I am super psyched for, but totally read the book or listen to the audiobook, which is pretty cool. So guys, Ready Player One is totally a 5-star read. I am obsessed with it. I love it. I want to make an avatar and explore the Oasis, please. Pretty much. I am so psyched for this movie coming. Check it out. Definitely check it out. Even if you aren't a big 80s pop culture fan, if you're not a big fan of video games, if you aren't a big fan of virtual reality, like, check out this book because it has something in it for everybody. Like, you gotta relate to something in this, right? Peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.